So what?
So what? I don't know. I was thinking I have a couple of different things, and I think you probably have a couple of different things.
Yeah, did you know the Apple iPhone has a walking steadiness measurement now?
Steadiness measurement
Yeah, so it
determines like how often you've been off balance.
yes, and it tells you your risk. What is your risk for falling in the next year based on your walking patterns?
For falling in the next year.
Or this past, whatever. It's like, it's how it measures
In the next week, you are 3 times more likely to fall than you were last week.
I got a notification.
Does it really do that?
Yeah. You want to know why I know this? Is because my cousin was like, hey, you should make sure this feature's on since you're always tripping. And you know what happened on my way into the office?
You fell down.
I tripped over the rug.
No.
I didn't fall this time. I didn't pull a situation like I did last week.
Did you? Oh, that's right. You fell.
You know?
I remember that. Yes.
So
we had a whole conversation about you falling down. Yes.
So in my life, I think this is a weekly occurrence now.
That you're gonna fall every week?
Yes, but the problem is I don't know how accurate the iPhone is in measuring this. So I have to find it. It's on the health app, and it measures your. Yeah.
I mean, it's counting your steps anyway.
Yeah, but it's doing more than that now. It's
well, and the Apple Watch is taking your heartbeat and all that other stuff too. You can check your blood pressure on it. There's lots of cool things you can do.
Double support time, 6-minute walk. That's not what it is. Where is it?
This is a really fascinating idea.
Walking steadiness notifications. Walking steadiness is an estimate of your stability while walking. iPhone calculates walking steadiness using your walking speed, step length, the double support time, and walking asymmetry data that's stored in health. This provides you a sense of the way you walk. Your steadiness is also related to your fall risk. As steadiness goes down, your risk of falling goes up. Walking steadiness is not an indication of how likely you are to fall in any given moment, but an overall sense of fall risk in the next 12 months.
Oh my goodness.
So iPhone can automatically record.
Is this thing telling you that you're unstable?
Yeah, well,
Get it? I just said you're unstable. Okay. That's the dad joke for the episode, and we're good to go.
That was terrible again. Yeah, so you can also receive a notification if your walking steadiness is low or very low. You can manage these notifications in your health checklist. So we're doing well right now.
Okay, steady as she goes. Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, as I was walking this morning with
you're probably
Duke,
doing a better job.
Like we did a great job. We're very steady. I noticed that when I walked Duke, like yesterday, I forgot to put his harness on. He's got a little walking harness.
Those things are great.
Yeah, with the walking harness, he gets more confident actually, and so he'll like go out ahead. When I don't have him on the walking harness, he stays right next to me. And
he's
he doesn't
choking?
No, he just doesn't. He just doesn't pull. Like he just kind of goes. Whereas like with the walking harness, he's able to get a little bit ahead. He's never pulling too much.
Okay.
You know, he's just ahead of me, and I think it just gives him like that extra little confidence. Like he's got that much more freedom or something. So it's kind of cool. Anyway,
That's cool.
While we were walking, I was thinking about a couple things that we were going to talk about today.
Okay.
And I was like, you know, there's a lot of things. I mean, maybe we could do like I was calling it in my own head 10-minute topics. I thought I came up with a really nice idea because I'm pretty sure no podcast ever has come up with the idea of a 10-minute topic idea.
Interesting.
I'm pretty sure that this is a totally original thought. It's not at all. It's not at all original. It's not at all original. So many other podcasts.
With so many billions of people in the world. The chances
so many other podcasts do 10-minute topics. But anyway, I was just thinking like I've got a couple things. So it's not actually going to be 10 minutes, but I had a couple things. You have a couple things.
I mean,
let's do it.
My big thing was the iPhone thing.
Your big thing was the iPhone thing. Okay.
Wait.
So Paola has led off with an incredible topic about how she's unstable and the iPhone is helping her to become more stable.
Yeah. Oh no.
Does that summarize it?
Well, you know, the other big thing is me locking myself out of my apartment and going on a 2.5-hour excursion all over Fairfield County.
Tell the story.
All right. So here's what happened. I was leaving the house Tuesday morning. I was very excited. You know what? I got things to do at St. Pius. Let me get there at a little, you know, I usually get here around 9. That's if I don't wake up early for Mass. So I did not wake up early for Mass. So clearly we already started off the wrong foot.
Right.
And I leave with everything outside my apartment, usually lock the bottom doorknob with my hand before I close it, only to find out that as soon as I close it, I did not have my actual keys on me. So what I had were a pair of earrings around one of my fingers. And so I think my body sensed.
Paola, could you reach over there and just grab your keys for a second?
You want me to show you how I do this?
No, I just want you to grab the keys. Okay, now, I'm just going to hold these up to the camera. And folks who are just listening to the audio, you're going to hear the keys jingle a little bit, but like folks,
it's a very massive.
This is the keychain.
Wait, listen.
And these are her keys that her earrings she thought were her keys. Now,
I have to explain. Do you know
no.
how many things were on my hand? I had a bag. I had like 2 bags in my hand. I had a water bottle. I had my phone. I had a book. And then I had my earrings. So like, when women, oh man, women walk out of the house with too many things is what I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. We walk out with way too many things, holding it all in our hands and not in a bag sometimes. So ask any woman this and they can testify to this.
Okay.
Okay.
I believe you.
So
I
believe.
Let's just say like that. I believe it's plausible that you could mistake earrings for this massive amount of keys and various and sundry other things.
And I go like this. It goes around my finger.
How heavy were those earrings though?
But see, I didn't notice because there were so many other things I was holding on to. There was a weight of a lot of things in this one arm. Do you see what I'm saying? So I wouldn't have noticed. Like I thought it's not just this by itself.
Is this going to turn into a complaint about pockets?
Women don't have enough pockets. That is another thing. It's not cool. And I also, it's so dumb, but I don't like carrying a purse all the time. So my situation's not
I don't
good.
Either. So I guess
right.
I'm
So
with
you got pockets. We don't have pockets.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
You know what has great pockets is a cassock.
Cassocks? Oh yeah, they should have pockets.
So not only do cassocks have like nice big pockets that you can put things in, but there's also on the side there's like the false pocket. It's just an opening in the side of the cassock so that you can
get into your actual
reach
pocket?
your actual pocket.
That's cool.
Yeah.
We like the false pocket.
Yeah.
So anyways, I locked myself out and I was like, you know what? Let me call my roommate. Let's see where she's at. She works in New Haven. And I was like, would she take the time to come back even though she just left
She's
an
far
hour
away.
ago?
Yep.
Yeah, I live in Bridgeport. It's not going very far. So as soon as I look down, I see a notification on my phone from my bank saying, oh, there is a fraudulent charge we suspect. But then it had an image of the actual bank name underneath it. And I was like, well, that looks like it's fake. So I go into my bank statement as soon as that happens. Turns out I have $600 in fraudulent charges.
Oh.
So I got locked in my apartment. My roommate is nowhere near me. And then I find out
and your identity has been stolen.
My car was stolen to buy a bunch of things off Sprint and Zoosk. So I'm like, I don't need to be on those things.
I know what Sprint is. It's
Zoosk
a telephone
is a
company.
dating site.
Oh.
So I'm not sure how that happened, but it is what it is. I was like, this is fascinating.
Okay, but did you get those charges taken care of?
No, only one of them so far. They're taking forever. And I tried to talk to a human and they wouldn't let me. So now they've become more electronic for the fraud department.
I'm just walk into the bank like, well,
oh, you know what? I could do that. I'm not, well, it'll come. But anyways, yeah. So then it was like 2 hours. I had to wait for my cousin to pick me up.
Yikes.
I had to drive to New Haven, came back to my apartment. Yeah. So it just like, it was funny. It just was like.
It's a rough day though.
No, not really. I was laughing in the car. My cousin looked at me and she goes, "You're an idiot." And I was like, "Yes, but this is also pretty hilarious." So what would be my life if it wasn't this and it wasn't for the entertainment of others?
Well, I am certainly entertained by this misfortune that you've experienced.
I know.
Yeah,
It was like the beginning of a movie, like a girl wakes up, young millennial trying to get along with her life and things just keep getting worse.
Did you just put yourself in a romantic comedy?
I did.
Did you just put yourself in a romantic comedy?
It would have been perfect for a romantic comedy. Except I was a little bit more jovial about this whole situation. The person would have been like, I'm done with my life.
That does definitely, though, kind of lay the premise. You're not
It does.
wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's it. That's all I got.
That's pretty interesting. I like that. Okay. I'm gonna go to another topic for a second.
Yeah, no,
okay.
We're done with me.
Okay, we're done.
There's
okay.
nothing more to add.
So transitioning. This is the cool thing that I was listening to the other day. Some people talking about how music can form people in a very powerful way, can educate people in a very powerful way. And so especially when children start learning music, how that studying of music teaches them discipline, it teaches them practice, it teaches them focus, it teaches them to be just to listen more. So for example, kids who do well with music often are good with languages as well, or they're good with math as well.
Should have taken music.
Yeah, well, I always kind of laugh because like I've been pretty good with languages throughout my life, but terrible with math. And I've played music since I was 4. So I'm not really sure that music helps with math because I have no personal experience of it helping with math. But I definitely have the personal experience of it helping with languages because you start to learn how things sound. So you learn how to imitate those sounds or how to make those sounds yourself or how to make those sounds on an instrument. And so it's like a little bit the same thing with language. Like you learn the accents and everything. So it kind of helps. Anyway, so you've got that. But then he said, and this also helps with spirituality. And I don't mean religion, but I mean like spirituality, like real spirituality. And I was just kind of struck by that it's a very secular conversation happening. And the idea that spirituality and religion have to be separate somehow for so many people and so many people's mentality. The idea that spirituality and religion would be connected at all is completely foreign. But in fact, real spirituality needs to always be connected to our religion, and our religion always needs to be deeply spiritual.
Yeah.
Like we have to always have this context in which what I believe, what I profess to believe is also then reflected in my prayer, in my meditation, in my sense of God's presence in the world. And as this conversation continued, one of the other people participating in it spoke about Mother Teresa. And he quoted Mother Teresa of Calcutta, which I thought was really beautiful. He said, poverty, the deepest poverty is to be alone. The deepest poverty is to be disconnected or abandoned. And he was connecting then music as something that teaches you of your connection with others, with the past, with other people who also appreciate music, how you are connected to the world because you contribute some beauty when you play music, or you're receiving beauty when you hear it. And so he was using this to kind of connect. And I thought to myself, the fact that the first person he chose to quote was a saint.
There's something about this guy.
There's something there. Well, not just something about the man himself, but there's something about the conversation that even though there's an attempt to separate religion and spirituality, he's quoting a saint. And when you quote a saint, you've got to have that sense of something more deeper.
Yeah.
Right? This isn't just somebody who is deeply spiritual. Mother Teresa was not simply a real spiritual teacher or spiritual master. Mother Teresa was a great saint and profoundly religious. She understood that it was the teachings of the gospel, that it was this religion given to us in the gospel that really mattered.
That's so cool.
Yeah. But I thought how cool it is that that's sort of the direction that he went to bring in this saint. Okay, now that's the first piece of it. The next piece of it was, I was just reading this article by Stephen White, and Stephen White was writing for the Catholic thing, and he quotes Pope St. John Paul II.
LOL, hold on, sorry. When you said the Catholic thing, it took me a second. Wait, there's a site called the Catholic thing, but not you're just like, oh, it's that thingy over there, like that Catholic thing.
That Catholic thing. The Catholic thing that we did the other day, that Catholic thing over.
Right. Sorry, that's where I went.
Yeah. No, that's good. I like that. No, so the Catholic thing is actually a website. We'll put the article in the show notes here. But he quotes John Paul II, who said this: "Holiness lives in history, and no saint has escaped the limits and conditioning which are part of our human nature. In beatifying one of her sons, the Church does not celebrate the specific historical decisions he may have made, but rather points to him as someone to be imitated and venerated because of his virtues, in praise of the divine grace which shines resplendently in him."
Can you repeat that again one more time?
Yeah. Holiness lives in history, and no saint has escaped the limits and conditioning which are part of our human nature. In beatifying one of her sons, the Church does not celebrate the specific historical decisions he may have made, but rather points to him as someone to be imitated and venerated because of his virtues, in praise of the divine grace which shines resplendently in him. And then Stephen White goes on and he writes this. He says, "The saints are not saints because they were indefectible in life, but because they attained to those virtues, those perfections, by which they were made transparent to the light of the one by whom they were perfected."
I'm so glad my scripture works for this.
Cool.
That's really cool. Well,
But see, yeah.
I was going to say that it feels like a call that we have to stop doing cheesy saint stuff and saying that they were all perfect, because everybody, for the most part, when you talk about them, like, oh, wow, that's unattainable, I can't do that, or they just had it easier to become a saint. And then you forget. I had a talk with one of our college students who used to be in our youth ministry yesterday. She did give us a shout out. She said, "You guys, I listen to you on your podcast when I just need to hear your voices."
Aw.
And I was like,
she's not listening to what we actually say.
Oh, no. Oh, no, she is. She is.
That's really sweet.
Yeah, so it was really cool. So I thought I'd just share that. No.
Does that mean we have 11s of listeners now?
I don't know. She's got to start sharing us over in Boston.
Sweet.
Like, let them know about us.
All right.
Oh, gosh, what was I going to say?
The saints' perfection.
There was something else.
Something about how cheesy the stories of saints often are.
They always are. Well, that was part of our conversation yesterday was I had seen this TikTok where this girl was
You and
praising.
TikTok.
Listen, there's so many recipes on there that I'd be learning about life and like about how interior design,
Intentional
mostly,
space.
yes, intentional space. Oh man, it was a mistake. Shouldn't have used that.
Uh-huh.
But anyways, so this girl was praising now that she's left Christianity, she has more free time in her life. So she was like, I don't have to do these things. I can do whatever I want on Sunday mornings, whatever. And there was a Christian's response to her TikTok saying, I understand you. I understand how this is a struggle, but I want to remind you, Christianity is not for the faint of heart. It's not for anybody who wants their life easy. And we think that if I just follow God's law, if I just do this, sometimes there's a part in the back of your head where you're just like, this is supposed to be easy. And it's not. Christianity is one of persecution, of suffering, of sacrifice. There is joy in that. But it was just really interesting to think that how many of us walk with the Lord, and when things get hard, and was my conversation with this college student, was she's been in a season of struggle.
Sure.
And just like, I want to give up, but I can't. I keep clawing back. I'm like, why is it so hard and it's tiring? And I was like, you're doing it. You're doing holiness. You're clawing back at the Lord, even if you don't feel like it, and you feel like he hasn't spoken to you in a long time. You're still showing up. Like, that is Christianity.
Yeah.
Like, that is you placing yourself in the presence of the Lord, even in like your despair and your doubt.
Yeah.
So,
and what John Paul II is saying in that quote is that when we canonize someone, or beatify them, we're not canonizing, beatifying every single thing they ever did.
Right, because some of them made some mistakes.
Well, the fact of the matter is that every saint is a sinner.
Yeah, exactly.
There is no such thing as a saint who is perfect except for the Blessed Virgin Mary.
So why do we think that then?
Well, because we see the heroic things that they did.
Right.
But see, we do this with other people too. We do this with celebrities. We do this with great historical figures. We can easily overlook the flaws or some of the things that are facts about their life in favor of kind of praising all the good things that they did. Now, if we understand that every saint is a sinner, and this works especially with the saints, because we can often see in the lives of the saints, we see their conversion moment. Here's that time when Paul was persecuting the Christians, where he was literally putting people in chains, dragging them back to Jerusalem to be put to death. And then he had that moment of conversion. He repented. He changed his life. His entire life was completely transformed. You look at somebody like Matt Talbot, who's not been canonized, but Matt Talbot was an Irish, a very holy man. And I think probably is a saint, just has not been canonized, but he was an alcoholic.
Oh, yes, I know his story.
And his whole story of turning away from his alcoholism and then drawing others to go with him into sobriety. This real moment of grace that was required for that. But there's a whole history of alcoholism in his life that cannot be praised. And he would never praise it, right? Sometimes you talk about this with conversion stories, there's a tendency sometimes to highlight maybe the dark part of the life. Here's all the sins that I was doing, and then I had this experience with Jesus, and now I'm
just in
okay.
the light.
Well, so it's almost like going the opposite direction. Instead of highlighting the virtue and the goodness and the heroism of what it is to follow Christ, it's like, let's highlight all the terrible things and then tell you that, hey, Jesus made a big difference in my life and now I'm okay. When we look at the lives of the saints, we have to kind of hold in balance the fact that some of the things that they did were not good, but that they triumphed over those sins in their lives by practicing the virtues, by striving for holiness, by growing with the Lord. Like, God in his goodness gave them what they needed so that they could become really and truly holy, so they could really truly become great saints. And we need that. We need that example. We need that witness. All right. And then we look at the idealized version of the saints, right? We call that hagiography.
Oh, what a fun word.
It's a great word. So hagiography means sort of that highlighting only the good things.
Yeah.
Highlighting only the good things. Now, part of the hagiography is really helpful in that it allows us to see clearly the virtues of the saints. Sometimes those hagiographies, though, become implausible. We're talking about something that this saint did or said that just doesn't really jive with reality. I'm pretty sure there's no way that actually happened. I'm pretty sure that didn't actually happen, that there's no real historical record of it. It's just sort of thrown out there like, oh yeah, this definitely happened. They were definitely so holy that they always smelled like roses or something like that. Now, it's possible that there were moments like that. Of course, I'm not denying that possibility. But there's some things where you go, it doesn't quite sound right. So the hagiography can sometimes get us in that way. But we have hagiographies about great historical figures too.
Yeah, we do.
You look at like the founding fathers of the United States of America, and there's these stories. It's a way to present someone to show that they're heroes.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a hagiography even of like Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah. That
he grew up in the log cabin, taught himself to read and sat and read by candlelight every day. And so educated himself and did all of these great things. Now, Abraham Lincoln, I think, is an incredible historical figure, hugely important. But there's no way he was perfect.
Right.
And I know that.
Yeah.
But I'm good with the hagiography thing. There's also the story, though, that he was so fast because he was tall, right? That he was, and he was strong because he chopped wood, because he was living in a log cabin. So he chopped wood and he ran and he could outrun the deer. And I'm like, look, I know I'm not athletic. I know I'm not, but he wasn't outrunning deer. I'm sorry, it just didn't happen. Deer move quickly and they know how to run through the woods. And I'm sure Abe Lincoln was fast, but I just don't think he was as fast as a deer. It's just not plausible, right? Yeah. But they share this to kind of elevate the hero status, right? And so we do the same thing with our saints.
We want heroes.
Yeah, because we need them to be heroic. This is why we're going back to Marvel.
Oh, this is what we've been doing at Edge. We've been going through all the different
This
heroes.
is why the Marvel superheroes are so good, because there's always a flaw. There's always some part of them that brings them back to earth. Yeah. So we realize that in spite of their great powers, in spite of all the things they can do, they're still not totally perfect.
Yeah.
But we need to understand that. Like, the saints are not canonized because everything that they ever did, said, or thought was so perfect.
Yeah.
The saints are canonized. The saints are held up to us as an example because they attained great virtues in spite of their flaws and in spite of their failings, in spite of their sin. They were greatly heroic as a result of, or in spite of all of that. And that's why we look to the saints this way. So what you were saying to our college student gave me a thought too.
Okay, what's your thought?
Do you remember the parable from the Gospel of Luke in which Jesus speaks about a fig tree that had borne no fruit for many years? And the owner of the land told the gardener, cut it down. Why should it exhaust the soil? Yeah. And the gardener said, give me more time. Let me cultivate the soil around it. Then in a year, if it has not borne fruit, you can cut it down. You know that story, right? You know how that ends?
It still ends up in the fire?
Nope.
No, wait, I got that wrong.
Nope. This is the best part. It ends exactly where I ended it. Let me cultivate the soil around it. And in a year, if it hasn't borne fruit, then you can cut it down. We don't find out what happened after a year.
That is for us.
Jesus doesn't end the story.
Dang.
Isn't that cool?
That's so cool.
See, this is just it. Like there are going to be those times when we feel like we're not bearing fruit, when nothing is working, when our spiritual lives are just empty, where our prayer is dry, or where we feel like we're just falling away from God. Like the struggle is so powerful. Right. I'm not living virtuously. I'm falling away. God doesn't say, okay, just cut it down. We're done. Right. That's so cool. Cultivate that soil again. But it's called to Christian maturity. Right on. And this is where I want to go in Corinthians. This is what I was reading the other night. All right. New topic. Well, it has to do with it because it's in. Okay, related topic. What a weird transition that was. I want some transition music. We'll find something. All right, come on, Chris, get on that. A special drum beat or something. Okay, so he says something techno maybe. This is 1 Corinthians 2, verse 6. Yet among the mature we do impart wisdom, although it is not a wisdom of this age or of the rulers of this age who are doomed to pass away. But we impart a secret and hidden wisdom of God, which God decreed before the ages for our glorification. So the one thing that stuck out to me was like, we impart wisdom among the mature. Mm-hmm. Like the mature are in a place of receiving, or in a posture of taking it on and acting on it. So when I read this, I was like, this makes sense. Like the more that I grew in maturity as a Christian, the more that I grew in the wisdom and the knowledge of God about how to live. So this is where it continues, Gil.
we impart a secret and hidden wisdom of God. So the secret and hidden wisdom, this is found in prayer. That's the means by which you come to know what is God's will, what is the things that he wants to impart on you to help you to continue to grow, to bear fruit or grow in maturity. But for this part, for your glorification. And that's just, I just sat with that for a couple minutes. I mean, maybe like 30 minutes, because I was so astounded by how the Lord.
Heard alert.
Yeah, that was funny. Sorry. Sorry. Whew, compose yourself.
She's done. She's impressed by how the Lord imparts wisdom to us through our prayer, and how the Lord draws us deeper into that relationship, and how the gospel, which is available to anyone, can still be hidden in so many ways.
Oh, I'm trying to say something. No, okay, yes, that, but I'm more intrigued over the maturity part, that God is walking us into maturity.
The maturity part. And you just fell apart laughing because you said Lord. Man.
Oh, my side hurts. That was rough.
You're so mature that making a vocal mistake was so funny that you cannot continue.
You know what the problem is?
Brilliant.
Listen, I prayed for joy in this specific podcast.
There's some joy. There is joy today. I love it. I'm loving this.
Oh my gosh. Oh, we should pray for it every week. We might not get anything done.
Why bother getting anything done?
That's right. What am I talking about? Yeah. So then he continues to say, he said, God has revealed to us through the Spirit, for the Spirit searches everything, even the depths of God. So it's through the Spirit that God is working and maturing us. The Spirit is the one who's building. The Spirit can often be known as an artist or an architect. He's constantly building a home for the Trinity to dwell in, for the Father and the Son. And he says, so no one comprehends the thoughts of God except the Spirit of God. And at another point, he says the rulers of this age, they don't understand. And how many times I was thinking about this, like, yeah, there's so many people in my life who don't understand what I'm going through, because it would be so easy to not live the Christian life, I guess, easy in quotes, Yeah. Because, why are you putting yourself through all these things? And this was part of my discussion with a college student yesterday was, you could be out like everyone else. Like, why are you making time for scripture? Why are you making time for small group? Why are you making time for all these things when you could be living a different experience? Because somehow that is seen as easier according to the world. But the world doesn't understand, because the world doesn't have the Spirit of God. So the Spirit of God is here to mature us. He continues, he goes, the unspiritual man does not receive the gifts of the Spirit of God, for they are folly to him, and he is not able to understand them because they are spiritually discerned. The spiritual man judges all things, but is himself to be judged by no one. For what has known the mind of the Lord so as to instruct him? But we have the mind of Christ.
Yeah, I think this is where you start seeing how spirituality and religion actually coincide so powerfully.
Yes.
There's sort of we're naturally spiritual. We naturally, by our very nature, we recognize that there's something beyond us. There's something beyond this body. There's something beyond this world. That's part of being human. A human being is able to recognize that they're part of something that is much bigger than themselves, and that there is some connection to what they do, how they live, and what's going on in the rest of the world and the rest of the universe. They can understand a connection. I mean, that's why you can look into somebody's eyes and feel connected to them.
Right.
Or you can look into somebody's eyes and say, I don't think that person is connected at all. You can look into somebody's eyes and you can see emptiness sometimes in their eyes, but you feel their emptiness.
Yeah, you can feel like they're not living with purpose.
Yeah, if you look into the eyes of somebody who's really empty, your heart is moved for them, and that is a natural movement. That's not specifically because you are Catholic or because you are Christian. That's because you're human. So there's this natural connection, this natural understanding that there is something beyond just the physical world that makes us spiritual. But real spirituality is always pointing us to God.
Mm-hmm.
It's always about that relationship with the God who is beyond this world, with the God who created this world, with the God who holds this entire world in being, with the God who ordered this world such that when we as human beings would see one another, we would understand ourselves to be connected. This is part of God's plan for creation. Then we start to understand the teaching that binds us, the teaching that shows us how we're supposed to live, the teaching that brings us into that perfect union with the God who loves us, right? And this is where religion starts to come in. So we learn the gospel, and that starts to help us to teach and understand that when we belong to the church, that shows us something more. It enhances that connection with God through the sacraments we receive. Yeah. And so all of this draws us deeper. Look at the saints, and why are the saints inspiring? And we can look at the modern examples that we have, right? Okay. Especially of John Paul II and Mother Teresa, because these were the two contemporary saints, right? That everybody could look at and see. We knew, when you saw a picture of Mother Teresa, you knew that was a living saint. When you saw John Paul II, there was a sense that this man was not just standing for human rights, which he did.
Right.
But there's something much deeper about what he's doing.
When you saw them together.
When you saw them stand together, you knew that profound connection, that there was something that was binding them to one another, and that they were both living for. And what they were living for was the good news. What they were living for was Jesus Christ. So you see that powerful connection, that the importance of that they were able to give their whole lives to something. But what made them so inspiring was that you knew that they were seeing something that wasn't just of this world. Mother Teresa wasn't just seeing the poverty of the streets of Calcutta. She saw it for sure, but she saw deeper. She saw beyond it.
Right.
We would look at it and say, this is hopeless poverty, and no amount of money is going to fix it. There's nothing I can do. I can't make a dent. And she went out and said, there's nothing I can do. I can't make a dent. I'm going to pick up this dying person. There's nothing I can do. I can't make a dent. I'm going to feed this starving person. In spite of the fact that there was nothing to be done, in spite of the fact that the poverty seemed overwhelming, she said, I'm still going to do this. Because there was something more than just the practical. There was something more than what the world would measure as success that she saw.
Right.
She recognized that there was something more. And this is where, again, you can only do that if you have a spiritual understanding of the world, if you have a spiritual understanding of yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
And even with her, she had that darkness.
Yeah, she experienced her own struggle in her spirituality and in her prayer.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think in many ways, it was her religion. And her understanding that God was still at work, even when she couldn't personally always feel it.
Exactly.
That helped her to persevere. See, this is the other part. We get discouraged, right? We get discouraged when something doesn't work very well, so we start to give up. So this TikTok that you talked about.
Yeah.
TikTok that you talked about.
Tickety.
This is somebody who got to a point of struggle. And I haven't seen the TikTok, so I don't actually know anything about them. But it sounds like you're telling the story of someone who started to struggle and decided, well, because of this struggle, it's not worth trying. It's not worth taking this step, so I'm not going to.
Right.
And that's when they stopped making the effort. And when they stopped making the effort, they started to feel something different. But it wasn't anything real. It wasn't a real spirituality. It wasn't a real connection with anything.
And it's that struggle that grows you in maturity.
Yeah.
It's that very thing. So Paul says this. He goes, what no eye has seen, nor ear heard, nor the heart of man conceived, what God has prepared for those who love him.
It's beyond us, man.
Yeah.
Totally
but
beyond us.
even when we can't see it, we can't hear it, we can't hear his voice, and our hearts are struggling, like, God has prepared something for us.
Yeah.
And I love scripture because it's great.
It's because it's great.
Ooh.
I love scripture because it's great.
Yeah. So if you need to hear that, if you're struggling with not seeing, hearing, or believing in your heart, like, God has prepared something for those who love him.
Yeah.
And so religion roots us back into a relationship, places us in his presence. It's such a gift of the sacraments of the life of the church. They're helping us walk along on crutches, even if you feel like you're on crutches, but like they're your
stable walking.
Yes.
Unstable walking,
Unstable.
balanced walking.
Balanced walking.
Comes back to the iPhone.
Steadiness walking. But yeah, it's praise God for the church.
That's awesome. All right, I got one more.
Okay.
Ready for this?
Is it ridiculous or is it serious?
Both.
Oh, we like this.
Both. Yeah, we're gonna. There's gonna be exactly. That's part of it. I want to see how you're gonna react.
Sorry.
Because
I need like a masseuse or something. I keep tucking my neck, which is never a thing.
Oh, that's not good.
We're having problems in the body as well.
Yeah, Paola's falling down. She's unstable and she's locking herself out, and she can't distinguish her keys from her earrings.
Yes.
I have summarized your life.
I'm
very happy to help.
Sad. When I'm in prayer later, I'm like, all right, Lord. Lord. All right, tell me your serious, funny thing.
Well, part of this is going to be an interview.
Oh, okay.
I've got some questions for you.
Okay, cool.
One of the things that I've seen a lot of lately, partly reading, partly listening to podcasts, partly watching some TV stuff.
Mm-hmm.
People who decide that they want to do something different than what they've done before. They decide, I want a new project. And so they take their gifts and their talents and they kind of roll it into something unexpected or something that you wouldn't quite think ahead of time. Yeah, this makes sense that they would do this. So you see people, especially actors and directors, who will kind of make a move towards something that they don't normally do.
Actors becoming musicians.
Sometimes it's music or it's a style of acting. You see this also with authors. Sometimes they're known for writing a particular style and then they write something completely different. Wow. Then if you look back at some of the great writers, like Shakespeare didn't just write great plays. Shakespeare also wrote beautiful poems. So you'll find some of his sonnets and things, and there's this beauty to it, to what he's written. And there's a very real way in which you can kind of branch out to other things. You see this with musicians, right? So this band that plays this kind of stuff then switches over and starts playing this style of music, or they incorporate different styles at different times. So certain things like this whole album is going to be about this, and then just this one song is going to have this style to it. They're bringing in other instruments, other instrumentation. They're branching out and playing things that they don't normally play. Like it's really kind of cool to see how that can happen. I got to thinking about that, like in the life of the church, what do we do? And how we can sometimes find new projects or new things to try out. So this was really inspired, though, by I turned on Hulu. And there's a new show on Hulu called Only Murders in the Building.
Oh, is that with Steve Martin
yep.
and
Martin
Selena
Short
Gomez?
And Selena Gomez.
Selena Gomez.
All right, so here's the thing.
Struggling with speech.
I'm watching. I saw this and I saw the lineup. I saw who was in it. I had no idea what the show was about.
Okay.
I saw it the other day and I immediately had to watch 4 episodes. I'm 4 episodes into this thing because I was just like, I was so intrigued. First of all, it's Steve Martin and Martin Short.
That's going to be phenomenal.
It's going to be funny.
Yes.
You know it's going to be good. I love watching those guys. I think they're great. But I remember several years ago watching something with Steve Martin where he talked about kind of retiring from comedy.
Oh, interesting.
Like he's no longer going to go out and do stand-up. He's not going to do this stuff anymore. Instead, he wants to try other things. And so he's been working on other projects. Now he's already been prodigious with his output with movies and with comedy and everything. So like, Steve Martin, he's established. Martin Short, he's established. These are guys who do this stuff. Yeah. They were established when I was young.
Yeah.
Right. But then I saw they were working with Selena Gomez. Now I don't know anything about Selena Gomez except that she is after my time.
Wizards of Waverly Place.
Yeah. So she became famous when I was already beyond watching the Disney Channel. I'm too old to have watched her and to have seen her do anything. So I don't know anything about her other than that she was on the Disney Channel. Disney or Nickelodeon?
Disney,
yeah. She was correct. So she was on the Disney. That's the only thing I know about her. She's working with Steve Martin and Martin Short. Okay, there's something.
It good?
It's really good. Oh, so there's got to be something cool here because these two really established people. And I know that she's established in her own right.
Right.
But she's not been known for like working with comedians.
Right.
And now they're working together on this show.
Well, technically, Wizards of Waverly Place was a little bit of comedic.
It was a Disney Channel show doesn't count as comedic.
Okay, but I thought it was funny.
Of course, because it's a show for children, so it's meant to make them laugh sometimes. But like, come on.
Okay.
No, but I'm looking at this going, they're working on a project together. And I was more intrigued by the idea of this trio working together on something, that they decided to branch out and do something that nobody I certainly would not have selected,
Right.
oh yeah, the most likely pairing or trio for this, the most likely group that's going to put together a show about murder podcasts is Steve Martin Short, and Selena Gomez. That's the absolute last thing that I would have expected. And in fact, that's kind of how
That's the draw.
Well, that's kind of how the show starts. It's the three of them are very different people
Yeah.
who end up all liking the same kind of podcast genre, and they come together. So it's really cool. Anyway, so I got to think about how sometimes we branch out, we want to do different things. I'm like, all right, you, Paola, have recently stepped into a new role here at the parish. So you're director of evangelization. You're stepping away from youth ministry, which you've done for 6 years and which you've done really well. You're still connected to the youth ministry world. You haven't left it behind.
I know. The children will still have me.
Right. But you're stepping into something new, kind of like a new role, a new project.
Yeah.
All right. First of all,
A very new, overwhelming project. But yes.
how's it feel?
No one's ever done it before. It's a lot.
So it feels kind of original.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's kind of cool because it's like, okay, I got here, I started youth ministry, did that for 6 years. Now it's like we're jumping into another thing that I get to start, which is really cool. So I'm really realizing, wow, Lord, you kind of have me in like building. Like that's my gift, is to start to build.
How'd you get to that place, though, where you saw this as a need?
Ooh, wait, I have a lot to say on that. Actually, it was through my investment with adults, through Walking with Purpose, because I realized youth ministry is just one small little part of parish life. There's a whole other part. So I kind of made myself available. I thought if I were to invest more in the parents of students who were coming around at church, that would help my investment with their students in youth ministry. And yes, it totally made sense and it worked. And as I spoke with more people, it's funny, I just had this conversation literally last night about my gifts.
Awesome.
And now we're like talking about it today. As I spoke with more people over the last 3 years, some of their commentary to me, or one of the requests is, can you do more for us?
Yeah.
So in a very particular way, because I was able to speak or mentor or walk with several parents or adults in whatever state they were, it kept coming back to me that I didn't realize that I was sowing something. I didn't realize that I was planting seeds that was going to bring life, but now needed me to tend it. You know, kind of like I just threw the seeds there and just like, oh, you hope it grows, but now it grows and you're like, wait, this needs like a gardener now. This needs somebody to work it and to create a structure and it just in a way a beautiful garden. And that's kind of how I see my new role is I'm building another garden in our parish life and inviting other people to be laborers in that garden. It's like, okay, let's do it in that way. So it was personal people. I mean, it was people coming up and telling me personally, like, we would love for you to do more. We'd love for you to speak more. We'd love to do, like, just listen. And that for me was an affirmation, mostly because most of my life, I was too shy of a kid to ever speak.
Sure.
And now I don't shut up. So it's like, it's really incredible, the gifts of the Lord. Like, he's like, I'm asking you to go out and speak. I'm asking you to go out and to preach my word. I'm like, okay.
I can sit in my office with my door closed and hear every word you say.
Yeah. So that was really cool. But the bigger part was in like it said in scripture, like the secret and hiddenness in the Lord.
Yeah.
A lot of it was rooted and inspired in prayer.
So you have this inspiration to do something, partly because the people are talking about it.
Right.
So the idea is planted there, and then it's coming up in your own prayer to do something new.
Right.
To do something a little bit different.
Right.
All right. And then you're doing it.
Well, we're organizing it. There's a lot.
It's in process now.
Right.
And I think this is part of the cool thing. A lot of times in the life of the church, we do something, and once we've started doing it, now it has to remain this way forever. This particular ministry or this way of taking care of something kind of always has to be this way.
Yeah. And
we can easily kind of get into that rut. Now, on a pastoral level, there are certain things that the church always needs. I remember when I was in seminary, this idea that there are certain things that will never be taken away from the church. So one is the charism of papal infallibility. There will always be a source of definitive authority that speaks with the truth, that teaches the truth in its fullness. Another thing that will never be taken away from the church is the contemplative life. There will always be those who are in the monasteries contemplating the Lord and praying for the world. That will always be present because it's necessary always and in all times.
Yeah.
Right. But there are other things that will change over time. So the way that you approach taking care of the poor, the way that you preach will be according to the language being spoken to the people of the time, to the circumstances of the congregation. There are all these things that might change and vary in different ways,
Right.
but there are some things that will always remain the same. Then there are new needs that will present themselves that you'll start to see, here's a need, and I know that I can meet this need.
Right.
But then there's also not so much the need presented, but the inspiration received. So a person has an inspiration to do something. They believe, all right, the Lord is calling me to go and do this thing, to put together this project, to step out and do something maybe different, to do something that nobody else has done before, or to simply try something to invite people in a way that they've not been invited before.
Right. So our first thing that's coming up is outpouring nights. So this is one of the ideas that I have. Like, I have a lot of brainchild things on my whiteboard. Like, oh, we would love to have all these things. But one of the things I've noticed is, how are we inviting new people to church?
Yeah.
You know, outside of Mass, are there other opportunities? We don't really have them as much unless you're connected to, like, okay, Walking with Purpose, definitely one men's group, but more than that.
Yeah.
You know, you need to have a parish that has multiple opportunities throughout the week. That's why there's youth group twice a week, you know, for middle school. And so it's slowly growing to adding more.
Can I interrupt you for a second with this? Because I think you're absolutely right. People need opportunity to connect with the Lord and through the community of the church. And I think a lot of times where we can start to limit ourselves is we think that it has to be only at the parish level, or that this parish has to be the one doing everything. But for example, I know somebody who got to participate in something at another parish recently, and it was really helpful for them. And it was a really good thing. They're parishioners here and they're not going anywhere. But this other thing that they got to go to was so helpful for them and so meaningful and such a big impact in their spiritual lives that now they're fired up and really grateful for having that experience. We had people, we had a bereavement group here, and the bereavement group isn't meeting anymore. But this bereavement group would have people coming from other parishes.
Wow.
Now there's another bereavement group that started in another parish close by, and people have been going there.
Oh, that's great.
And the good news is that the ministry is available. That service that is needed it's available, and it's available not far away. It's available with a relative ease to access, and you don't have to belong to this particular community to benefit from what that community has to offer. And so then you start to see that what we're offering,
we're one church.
We're one church, and what we're offering is actually able to go to many other people. You don't necessarily have to be here. We had this conversation with Emily yesterday about the family from down in Stamford calling us about youth ministry stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is really cool. This is a family that lives far away from us.
Very.
I mean, very far. It's 2 towns away, 3 towns away.
And not if you consider traffic.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But they live far away.
Yeah.
But they're interested, and they wanted more information. Now, maybe their kids will benefit from what we do here.
Yeah.
Maybe we point them in a different direction. Maybe we're just able to give them some ideas and some influence that can help them to establish something themselves.
Right.
But either way, we have this awesome opportunity to just participate and to be together in this. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
And I got to thinking about this too. Right, these actors, these musicians, these writers, these people, even just people who have a they're in business or something. I know a guy who decided he had been in corporate America for years and decided this just isn't working for me anymore. So he started going to grad school at night and got a master's degree in education, and became a 7th grade teacher.
That's
and I remember him telling me his story, and I'm going, why would you pick 7th grade? Like, of all the 7th grade was the worst for me. I hated 7th grade, but he just said, no, I needed to teach. And so he became a history and an English teacher.
Wow.
After a career in corporate America. And it was such a strange career move, but he said, this was what I need to do. He was so happy as a teacher. The kids liked him. He was a good teacher. But what it seemed on the outside to be such a strange decision to make.
Right.
But he did it.
Yeah.
And I look at this with my own father. Like, my dad's career trajectory is so bizarre, right? He went to college.
Elephants, right?
Well, he started as a theology major in college, actually. And then he switched to biology.
Okay.
Got a job at a small zoo in Bar Harbor, Maine.
Okay.
Worked there for a year, and then moved to San Diego with my mom. And they moved to San Diego. They had been married for about a year at that point, maybe 2 years at that point. Moved to San Diego, and he became an elephant trainer at the San Diego Zoo. Then he goes from the San Diego Zoo back to Connecticut to the Bearsley Zoo, and then he started teaching science at a private girls' school. And he was a science teacher for years, and then he quit teaching and became the Connecticut State Troubadour in 1996, which is a thing. And he devoted the rest of his active work life to music.
Wow.
And to teaching music, to doing music education in schools and things like that. I mean, elephant training to folk musician full time, and with a stop as a high school biology and chemistry teacher in between. Like, what the heck kind of career path is that? What kind of lunatic do I come from? This is it.
Your line is questionable. I'm kidding. It's not.
No, actually, but this got me kind of thinking, because every once in a while I'll start to think about like an idea. I want to try and do this thing, and it's not related to parish life, right? And it's something kind of outside of the norm of parish life. Even doing a podcast, right?
Yeah.
This isn't really part of parish ministry. I hope people from the parish listen to it and it's helpful for them. I hope anybody who's listening, it's
I'd say
helpful.
it is now.
Yeah.
It's
but like
digital ministry.
This isn't really something that you would look at and say, oh yeah, you've got to do that. This is something that's fun. I enjoy doing this. And I hope this is a good way to talk about the gospel and to share the good news with people and to like introduce them to Jesus and tell them it's possible. Like, let's go for it. Right. Yeah. But I think sometimes of the stuff that I would really like to be able to dedicate some time to, like if I had the chance.
Would you go into iron welding or something?
No.
More fishing?
I would definitely do more fishing. Yeah, if I could. I would also learn to play the bouzouki. The bouzouki is like a very giant mandolin. It's a really cool. It's a cool instrument. I would definitely learn that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the next one. It's like I can't stop thinking about it. It's been on my mind for weeks, and I don't know why. It's just now I'm thinking about it, and I want one. But like there are weird things that cross my mind with this, all right? But it's got to be the Irish style. Like I don't want the Greek one. The Greek one's got this big like kind of a rounded back, and I'm not comfortable with that. Yeah, it's not comfortable. It's got to be the Irish style. Anyway, besides the point. But like that would be for fun, for my own self.
Right.
I'm talking more in terms of I hate to say it like this, but like work.
Yeah.
See, because I think in the church, different from what artists or actors, musicians, or even people in the working world might do, it's something that they do kind of because this supports their family. It's something that they do to express their art or their skills. But like in the church, we're always speaking in terms of ministry.
Right.
I'm doing this because I'm called to be a priest, and therefore my life always has to be priestly. The work that I do must always be the priest's work. Mm-hmm. There are certain things that I can do as a priest that no one else can do.
Right.
And so I've got to always make sure that my work is priestly work. But priestly work is not always necessarily coterminous with parish work. Most often it's expressed as parish work. Mm-hmm. Like, if ever
I agree.
I was asked to go and do something else, what would it look like? What would I do outside of parish life? Now, this was also partly inspired by the other night we had the Knights of Columbus pasta dinner.
Yes.
And I was talking to some of the kids who were there, and they were starting to get silly. And so one of them said, Father Sam, I dare you to grow your beard all the way to your belly button. And then her sister dared me to do something else that was like chop your beard off or something. So it was two very opposite things. And then their little brother
One more preferred than the other.
Yeah, exactly. Their little brother was trying to get in on the daring game, but didn't quite understand how it worked. So he goes, I dare you to quit church. It was like, oh boy, okay, yeah, no, I'm not gonna. Okay, that's not how the game works. I appreciate what you're doing, but that's not how the game works. I'm really glad that you're trying to get into it, but that's not how the game works. That's not what we're doing. Funny. No, so I dare you to quit church. Come on, okay.
No, I like this though. It's to think about something else, right? It's what is my personal charism?
Yeah.
Each of us have a personal charism that we're called to use. You know. Oh, man.
Well, I often think about it like if I had the opportunity. Mm-hmm. And was able to take this kind of time, and it wasn't going to interfere with anything else that I was doing. It wasn't going to interfere with my responsibilities or the things that the bishop has asked me to do as pastor of a parish, right? If I could do something like this, and this is an enormous if, it's kind of a dream, and I don't know if it's a dream that I should be paying any attention to. And so this is another piece that I'm going to get to in a second. It's a dream, all right? My dream would be to go and work with Catholic Heart Work Camp and to go for their training for their staff, and to set up for them a schedule and a rule of life for their staff members, and to kind of walk them through how this is going to look. And then to work with a staff, one of their staff teams for the entire summer, and kind of make sure that they're following their personal rule of life as they go through the summer. So as they take care of all the stuff they're supposed to do, that they would also have the opportunity to then like make their holy hour every day, that they would do this stuff. I got really excited actually this past summer because one of the guys who was on the staff had gone into the chapel, and not every Catholic Heart Work Camp takes place at a school that has a chapel with the Blessed Sacrament reserved, but this one did. And he had gone into the chapel to pray for a little while because he had time and he didn't have any other responsibility at that exact moment. So he went in, and I was really proud of him because he was going in to take this time. It's like, I know I need to go pray, so I'm going to go and do it. I'm going to take the time that I have. And like, that's actually exactly the thing that I want to try to build in to their schedule for their staff members, just something so that they can really make sure that they're able to do that. And I would love to just be part of that. I think it would be so much fun. But he went in, and then we were getting a group of the staff together to do something else. And he came in like 5 minutes late. And he had fallen asleep in the chapel because he was just exhausted. He'd been running all day long and doing all this stuff. And for like two days before that, he hadn't gotten to bed before 1 a.m. or something. He came in and he had this red line across his forehead.
Because his head was on the pew.
Because he put his head on the pew and he fell asleep like that. So his head just leaned against this pew and made this big mark. He's been marked by the Lord. It was awesome. I thought it was so funny. And we were like all kind of teasing him for it. But at the same time, I was like, I'm really glad you went in there and you took that time with Jesus because you needed it. And even that nap, Jesus gave that to you. You needed that.
God does so much when people are sleeping.
Sure. All right. So this is like one of those things that I look at and I say, that's kind of a dream. It would be so cool to do it. Yeah. And there are lots of other ministries like that. Like I see what some people do. You get these experiences where you go and you see this priest who's like full-time doing youth ministry work.
Right. They're connected.
How cool is that? It's so nice. Like I love seeing that stuff. Yeah. And that's all that they have. Yeah. And sometimes I go, that looks like it could be a lot of fun. Then of course I look back and I go, I wouldn't want to leave parish life. Parish life has so much, and there's so much good in parish life that I wouldn't want to miss out on. So there's something really powerful in all of this too. I wouldn't want to get away from that. But then I'm looking at this, and I realized, and this is part of what I realized on my walk with Duke this morning, was that all these ideas, big dreams, big cool things that would be fun to do, a lot of that is just in my own head. It's not something that I've discovered inspired in prayer. And I come back to you. Because what happened when people started throwing the idea at you?
I went to pray.
Exactly.
I was like, Jesus, is this what we're doing?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah. And I was like, all right.
The need started to present itself.
Yeah.
You received that need, and then you brought it into your prayer to ask God, is this what you want? And I think as we're looking at church ministry, and the idea of using our gifts and doing different things and trying for something that maybe hasn't been done before. So Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez teaming up to do this TV show. And it's a really good show. It's fun to watch. I doubt anybody prayed about that, but I'm glad they did it. I'm really glad they did it. Now, what happens when we recognize a need and say, hey, I think this is something that we can do. I think this is something that I'm called to. Yeah. And I'm going to bring it to the Lord and test it. I'm going to bring it to the Lord and ask him, is this what you want?
Yeah, that's what I did. So when that started happening, I remember asking the Lord specifically in prayer, like, God, if this is what you want, then you need to start setting up opportunities. And I was very stubborn about this. I won't be looking for them. And that was my prayer for a couple months, and small opportunities just came to me, to whether it was like speaking at a retreat in Massachusetts. So I led a confirmation retreat up there. That whole experience for me was such a sign of, I've never felt more authentically myself than when I did that, but I was surprised at what I was capable of because the Lord had ordained it. And that set me on fire. I was like, okay, well, what other things are coming up? But then COVID hit, so it kind of put a kilter to some things. But
kilter?
A kill to some things. Sorry, English is hard right now.
None of those are phrases.
None of those are phrases.
Not one of those things that you just uttered is actually a phrase that's used
now I
in
question where I
the
learned
English
that
language. Something is off kilter.
Off kilter. That's not right.
Meaning it's not straight, it's crooked.
Wow.
Or off kilter, it is not balanced, not steady, like you're walking is off kilter. Oh, we come back again. Right? No, I think what you're looking for is that COVID put a crimp in the plan, or a kink in the plan prevented you from doing something, or COVID just became a stumbling block, an obstacle.
COVID was a big stumbling block.
Or an obstacle.
Oh my gosh. But anyways, what I wanted to say was that, like, yes, like there was some testing, and I asked the Lord if this was his thing, that he needed to provide things. He needed to provide specific opportunities for me to be reminded. And it was in those moments that would just kind of show up, or I was invited to do something, that I was reminded of the promise that I received in prayer, that I was reminded of the call. Now it was actively being lived out.
Yeah.
And actively being experienced. So you grow in confidence of your own gift because it's not yours.
Right.
It's preceded by a call from the Lord. So now your confidence is not necessarily in your own ability, but in that God's going to show up and this is his job.
Right.
And there's such a freedom in that because it's not all on you. You are still responsible to work with it. Like you still have to grow and to, cultivate that gift. And if you don't use a gift, it, like it says in scripture, like if you don't use the spiritual gifts that you've been given, like it can just kind of like die out a little bit.
Right.
So you have to constantly be in a place of cultivating it. And in that, God just takes it to the next degree, and it lands. Somebody's life could be changed by a simple word that you said or a way that you prayed over them. And so it's amazing to see what are the things that people are praising you about? Because my conversation last night was with somebody. We were talking about how we have gifts, but sometimes it's easier to motivate other people and not ourselves. Mm-hmm. It's so much easier to be like, I see this in you. You could do this. You can do this. And then we don't do that with ourselves. And sometimes we're waiting for things in church to grow. I was like, okay, we're just got to wait for this one person who has all these gifts and they're going to like make this happen. And sometimes it's you the Lord is waiting on to make something happen.
Amen. Oh my goodness. And I think that's something that if we can share that with people to help them see, you might be waiting for something to happen, but you're the one who has the gift.
Right.
And that gift God is calling you to do. So the reason that you keep seeing that need, the reason that you keep desiring this thing, this ministry, this activity, this event, the reason you have that desire is because the Lord's asking you to take the lead.
Yeah.
And expecting that I'm going to do it, or Paola's going to do it, or somebody on your staff, or somebody else who volunteers for things is going to do it. No, that's the Lord calling you to do it.
Yeah.
So you step up, you make that, but bring it to prayer first.
Right.
And confirm that this is really the Lord speaking. This is something that God desires for you.
Right. And now you move from like this section of your life where you're just not doing spectator Christianity, but you're doing participatory Christianity. Like you're actually stepping into the game and you're doing the thing.
I like that way to talk about it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, because we do it all the time. You're like, oh, well, it's the bystander effect. Oh, someone, like the people in the restaurant the other day, it was more of
watching you fall.
Watching me fall.
Because you're
hoping
unstable.
Somebody else.
Because you're an unstable, unpredictable person.
Exactly. That is a prime example of this.
Okay.
Like.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's great.
So it's good. All right. So.
I like it. We got to wrap.
We do.
We got to go.
We are
this
over.
is great. But you're unstable. You're unstable. You're unsteady. You're confused about earrings and keys and
the English language. So what's
the English language.
This is a normal day.
But Paola, in spite of all, I'm really proud of you.
Thanks,
because I think you're great. Hey, this is a lot of fun. This is Roll Like the Lamb.
I'm Paola Pena.
Father Sam Kachuba. God bless you.